Welcome to the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast, presented by the Fantasy Football World Championship, home to the industry's most accurate rankings.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast. I am your host, as always, Adam Krautwurst. And with me, as always, is Jody Smith, Mr. Full-Time Fantasy Podcaster himself.
Except for last week. Except for last week.
Except for last week. That's right.
You can't see it, but I was up there getting the Astros World Series ring. It's my fiance and I. It's our first time actually going to a game. We had good seats. It's a good time. They didn't win though, but can't ask for everything.
Well, they didn't win probably because there's nobody banging on a drum in the dugout.
You know what? They won every game since. So it's like clearly we were the bad luck charm. But
there you go.
This is the final Thursday, basically, for this calendar year that there's no football. So we are normally going to broadcast on Wednesday nights because what we discovered last year was as a rankings and projection guy, there's too much activity going on that last hour before the Thursday game kicks off. So it's becoming problematic to finalize projections and get all this stuff ready. So it's just easier for us to move it to Wednesday. So that's what we're going to do probably, every Wednesday in season here. So just letting everybody know that's planning on joining us every week that, I think we're going to be doing a Wednesday show. So that's
we'll be going Wednesdays. We'll be going over waivers. That's big waiver night in the industry. So we'll be doing that. And guys, pop your questions in the chat tonight. Jody's ready to answer some.
See, Jose's there, and my guy Jameson. Adam, you probably remember we hung out quite a bit there in Canton at the Expo. Jameson, great guy. So thanks for joining us, buddy.
Yeah. We're gonna get to some questions tonight. Jody and I are cover some of our guys at the end of the show, or in between questions, guys that we're trying to draft in every single draft. I'm in the middle, Jody. I'm in the middle of a home league family draft right now. As we speak, I'm potting. I'm drafting every night, I think, until the season starts.
Are you live drafting on a podcast?
Live drafting on a podcast. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So that's how I roll. I got my kids upstairs drafting.
So we get all the credit if it goes really, really well for you.
Fine.
And if it goes bad, you can just say, "Hey, I was too busy podcasting." So that's why my team was 3-13.
That's perfect. So, all right, perfect. So we'll get to the first question, Jordy. Well, why don't we do that? From Jose, favorite backup running back to draft this season. Jody, do you have one off the top of your head? If not, I can probably call one up here.
Well, I mean, you have to after the surprising news today of Jeff Wilson being placed on IR, you have to a chain there in Miami, but with so many teams going to these committee backfields or whatnot, I'm still looking at Washington. I expect you're going to have usage out of Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. It's your choice of who the quote unquote backup there is. But I have both of them as, being top 40 options. I am unusually high on Ezekiel Elliott. Okay. I know he's considered a backup per se, but this is a team that I granted, I understand this was, with Tom Brady was quarterback, but they continually had guys like Garrett Blunt and other goal line runners that they've used over the years have a ton of value. And I feel like that's definitely an area that Zeke is going to be able to help out. And he's probably a better pass catcher than most people are giving him credit for. Elijah Mitchell, it's another guy I'm really, really interested in. Another little news blurb today was that the 49ers are kind of planning on limited Christian McCaffrey. I don't necessarily buy that. Another thing says that Christian McCaffrey is, a good bet for 1,000 rushing yards and 1,000 receiving yards. So to me, that news didn't impact my rankings of him being the RB1, but Elijah Mitchell has proven when he's healthy that he can come in and be an upper RB2 on a week-to-week basis. If Christian McCaffrey were to miss time, Mitchell comes in right away and is a top 20, top 15 back. It just feels like Adam, that there's just a ton of RB2s and that 40 to 45, maybe even into the RB 50, where you get guys like Roshan Johnson, Kendre Miller, Chuba Hubbard. These are all guys that in a right situation can be really, really useful.
Yeah. Kendra with the little hammy issue today. My favorite is, I think he's a hot topic. Jaylen Warren is one of my favorite backups to take. Again, he's got Tony Pollard vibes from years past. Alexander Madison vibes from years past, where he's probably Madison's it wasn't better than the starter, but Pollard was better than Zeke for the last couple of years. But Jaylen Warren might be better already than Najee Harris. One injury.
Did you see that the blurb today that said, "Don't be shocked if he's the RB1 by the time the season's over"?
Yeah, you talking about Jaylen Warren? Yeah, exactly. So he's a guy I like drafting, going right now as RB 37 over at the FFWC. And I want to circle back to your Christian McCaffrey point. Listen, we don't want, if McCaffrey and Eckler can get these massive workloads and stay healthy, fine. But I would rather have them get spelled. Let McCaffrey get spelled in between the 20s. As long as he's getting all the catches and the goal line work, that's fine. Now, the argument could be made that Mitchell could easily take the goal down work because the goal line work because he's a good goal line back. He's a good running back, but I don't think it's pulling Christian McCaffrey off the field in scoring distance there.
He's too useful there, but in all honesty, if you want to keep your starting running back healthy, that seems to be the best way to limit them from taking the maximum amount of punishment is to take them out of those short yardage situations. But I mean, McCaffrey is such a good weapon in that area, in particular as a receiver, that I can't imagine they're going to necessarily pull him out. But I could see maybe San Francisco benefiting from having like one of them big bruising backs that teams used to employ back in the day. I'm going back, like aging myself here, going way back, but the Jets had this fullback named Brad Baxter that, and that was my early days of fantasy football. But nobody was better at the. It would just say B Baxter one run. He was the best when it came to that, and teams don't employ that as much as maybe they used to. But that might make sense. But until we see them do that, I don't think that's going to be something that they regularly do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So, and again, this is if you're going to deploy these 0 RB or hero RB strategies, you got to be willing to really dive into these kind of backup running backs, these kind of handcuff.
Yeah, it's like, man, it was so. I really wanted to embrace 0 RB this year, but everybody's doing it. I mean, it's made it to the point where Adam, I'm sure as many drafts as you've assembled, it's almost impossible. Earlier this summer, sometimes if we had a pick from the 9 to 12 range, we were able to take a Garrett Wilson or somebody at the back of one, and then we knew we could swing around at the top 2 and take Amon-Ra St. Brown. That was brilliant that we could load up there. Now, here into August, we're seeing Amon-Ra St. Brown. If anything, he's going at 7 or 8 overall, 9 overall, and it's become increasingly difficult to start wide receiver, especially if you don't have 10 through 12. And it's kind of unfortunate because I wanted to try that more this year. I was able to a few times back in April and May, and I was able to take these kind of mid-round running backs that you were just hitting on, and that's the kind of guys you want to fill up your roster with when you're taking that approach. But it's just become so difficult with everybody doing that it almost feels like, one thing in fantasy football we've learned over the years that you kind of want to be contrarian when everybody else is doing something. So, does that mean you want to load up on running backs? I don't know, but
yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying. I mean, I'm looking at ADP here from the FFWC, and it's like, man, do I want to take RB 22 in Javonte Williams, or do I want to take wide receiver 38 in Brandon Cooks? It's like it's such a huge difference. All the running backs are flying off the board so quickly.
If you're a full-time fantasy member, then that's a no-brainer there, with what we put out about Javonte Williams just this week. So,
Right, exactly.
The point there is, like you just said, 22 at running back versus 38 at wide receiver. And a guy like Brandon Cooks, fine player. universally underrated almost every year. Did just fine last year with a just moribund Houston Texans offense. I think he's got a chance to be, pretty good again. But at that point, when you got a potential top 20 running back versus wide receiver 38, I mean, it's hard to do that.
Yeah, for sure. We got another question here. Jameson Hutchinson says, are you guys on Deshaun Watson this year, returning to top 5 form? Also, thoughts on Elijah Moore? Let me go first here on this Elijah Moore business, because I have been all in on Elijah Moore all off season. I absolutely love Elijah Moore, especially at ADP, and kind of a reason why you don't have to go 0 RB, because you can get guys like Elijah Moore now who's creeping up, but he's still wide receiver 43. Listen, I think he's the wide receiver 1 in Cleveland this year. We're doing hot takes. We're going to do some hot takes tonight. He could be the wide receiver 1 in Cleveland. I know you're the projections guy, Jody. I know you're snickering, but I'm just saying from a gut instinct, I think he has that opportunity to at least be the 1B there. Wide receiver 43 was awesome in college. He was awesome as a rookie with one of the worst quarterbacks we've ever seen in Zach Wilson. Sorry, Scott. And last year, the wheels fell off with that whole organization and everything. So Elijah Moore just mentally checked out. Not a good look, but whatever. Then bring him over to Cleveland. He's been tearing it up. No one has had more targets in that offense this preseason than Elijah Moore. So I am all in on Elijah Moore, and I absolutely love it. And I'll let you go in on him and Deshaun Watson.
What you like about Moore also is when you watched preseason games this year, they were manufacturing touches for him, whether it was as a runner out of backfield or on screens and all that. They were going out of their way to creatively find uses for him. Actually, you know what? I think Moore, he's such a high, because he's an analytics guy when it comes to fantasy football. We all loved him coming out of school. It would be, I know Scott's in here, so of course it would be the most Jets thing in the world to have this guy, Adam, what you just said is he got thrown away basically by the Jets for a song, and for him to turn around, if he were able to outscore Amari Cooper, wouldn't it? That would be the most Jets thing ever. But I know they've moved on and whatnot, but I'm not quite as high on Elijah Moore as you are, Adam, but that's only because I feel like there's so many wide receivers that I think are a little bit safer and all that. When it does come to Deshaun Watson, I don't know if he'll be top 5 this year, because to me, there's so many quarterbacks that I really like above him, but he's firmly been like my QB 9 the whole offseason. And I felt like early on, this is, kind of a rant that I wanted to go on. I feel like some of the guys that I had flyers on, Adam, all offseason, I was so strong on, I was way ahead of the group on, it's starting to play out. Marvin Mims is a great example of that. I was like, last time I checked Fantasy Pros a couple of weeks ago, I was like top 5, top 6 in where I had Marvin Mims playing this year. And now all of a sudden we hear this Jerry Jeudy injury. So naturally everybody's scrambling and moving him up and all that. It's too bad because, Marvin Mims, I think from an athletic standpoint, from a, production standpoint, he, Scott Barrett has had him pegged as his wide receiver 2 this whole time. And that's something worth noting on. But I loved Mims. And again, I think my point was that, I felt like early on, my first run of projections that Watson was coming in quite a bit higher than most other people had. But now it's all kind of evened out. And you routinely see him in around that range, which is QB 9. I'll have to pull up my rankings and all that, but
I got his ADP right here, Jody. He's been going QB 9 over here. To me, he's like a bridge quarterback between.
Yeah, okay. So it comes down to obviously you have your top 3 tier. I have Justin Herbert in my top tier of quarterbacks this year. I think he could easily move into QB 1, but he's my 4. And then after that, I can't. No matter how much I play with the numbers and all that, I can't get Watson ahead of Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, or Lawrence Jackson. Lamar Jackson. I said Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. It's hard for me to make the things work. We had some concerns with the way he kind of ended the year. It didn't go as nice, as we thought it would there. After he was, let's just say, he was well rested. All those massages and things probably really did wonders for.
Sure.
But Yes, I mean, sure. I mean, you're talking about a quarterback who could very easily finish top 3, top 4 as a rusher, and as we know in fantasy football, rushing quarterbacks are the premium placed on them, can't be understated. So, could he move into top 5? Absolutely. I feel like I'll have a hard time getting him any higher than where he is right now, which is my QB9.
Yeah, no, I agree. To me, he's like a bridge quarterback between like the elite ones and like the ones that you'll wait on and you'll take 2 of them later on. So I haven't had a lot of them, but listen, with the weapons that they have there in Cleveland and in Joku, he's been in the preseason. They're saying he's been targeted all over the field. Nobody can cover him. It's really working out there. So I mean, if he gets back to form, absolutely, I could certainly see that happening for sure. Jose has another question for us. What player has climbed ADP this month that you would not draft? What players draft that we would love to draft? So kind of what player is falling and what player is rising. It's a good question. A guy that's been rising, he's okay, perfect. I was going to say a different player, but this one's even better. A guy that's rising that I didn't have any shares of before and I won't have any shares of now is James Cook. And hear me out. I'm the Bills guy. I'm the Western New York guy. And I just don't buy it. And here's why. So he's going right now is RB19. Now again, RB30, okay. RB19. What do we want out of our running backs? We want guys that get the goal line carries. James Cook is the 3rd back on the field for goal line carries. It's Josh Allen, and then it's Damian Harris. What happened last week in the final preseason game? They got down to the 2-yard line. They pull out James Cook. They put in Damian Harris, touchdown. Jimmy Harris is a good running back. Josh Allen is probably the best goal line back in football. So he's not getting goal line work. So he's got to get pass down work. The Bills don't throw to the running backs. Now, I will say what's made me a little nervous about fading Cook is in the last preseason game, they were throwing designed wheel routes to James Cook, which they haven't done. Josh Allen hasn't run that type of plays, those type of offense at all, ever. So if they are going to start doing that to James Cook, he's draftable in that kind of range in the 20s, but he's not getting the goal line work, and he has to catch like 50 or 60 balls, Jody, to really make up for his lack of goal line work. I mean, he's going around Dameon Pierce, who's a 3-down back probably there. He's going around, Javonte Williams, who's getting the catches and probably the goal line work. Rashad White, who's got a huge upside. Dobbins, who we're probably going to get to later as RB21, who's going to get all that work. He's going, Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall. I mean, Cook just isn't in that stratosphere of as far as touches is concerned. Now he is a back and a good offense, so there is that. And I could be wrong if they start doing, but the only way I'm wrong is if they start doing things with James Cook that they haven't done with running backs before. So that's my take on it. What do you think of James?
That last statement you said is kind of disconcerting because you have stability in that coaching staff and that scheme. Why would you change what's been working? So it's concerned. I see the upside with Cook, but most of it comes from pass catching prowess. And like you said, that they're not a team that prioritizes a lot of receptions to the running backs. And now you bring in a Dalton Kincaid, who, we pretty much have learned is not really a tight end, but he's actually going to be more of a slot / perimeter receiver. That's why I feel like their tight end has actually been Dawson Knox has actually been a value that I've been kind of finding myself targeting. I believe I included him in my sleeper article because it seems like people have just totally forgotten and just assuming that he's going to be off the field. I don't think that's the case. I kind of like James Cook overall. I feel like he is a little bit of a risk though. In fantasy football, you want differentiation. You want to take some chances on guys. So does he have, I don't know if he has top 15 upside because like you said, Adam, as long as Damian Harris is healthy, it feels like his upside is muted. Like he feels like a guy that can probably get about 5 or 6 touchdowns from, beyond 10 yards. I think that's feasible, but inside of that, I don't know. He would at best be 3rd in a pecking order behind Allen and behind Damian Harris to punch in anything inside the 5. So it feels like his upside's kind of capped, but I still kind of, like him overall. A running back that I was just going to look. So Alexander Madison, that's a guy that we've seen slowly creep up here, especially after, Dalvin Cook was released and whatnot. I'm still kind of, I can't get him to what, like when you look at Fantasy Pros ECR, which is, the average area that experts are ranking a guy, I can't get him there. I just, there's concerns about, he was considered like when he would come in relief of Dalvin Cook, he always had these great games, but when you looked at his breakaway rate and his explosive play rate last year, he was one of the worst backs in the game, and that was just in a part-time role. What you have to like out of Madison is that the Vikings basically, I was surprised that they cut bait with Dwayne McBride this week. That was one of the bigger surprising cuts for the week, but they haven't done much as of yet to bring in competition for Madison. So you kind of like that, but I can't get him there. Adam, I was kind of curious of where do you stand on Madison? Do you feel like he can be, a mid-tier RB2, which is where he's being drafted? Do you like his upside, or do you have some concerns as well?
I'm fine with him at RB20 because, again, with the difference between like a him and a Cook is like Madison could have the pass down role and the goal line role. Is Madison great? Probably not, but I don't think he's as bad as people make him out to be. And so, again, to me, he's got that Tony Pollard vibe. I'm not talking about talent-wise, but I'm talking about like, okay, this was the guy stuck behind the starter. The starter's gone. Now they're next man up. He was clearly better than the running backs that they had there. It actually makes me more nervous that they let McBride go, because now it opens them up to bring in like a guy like a Leonard Fournette or something like that, like a player that's better than McBride that can take more away from Madison. So I'm actually a little bit more nervous now on Madison. I don't have a ton of Madison only because I end up taking usually receivers around that range, but I'm not as low on Madison as I think some people are. And again, I think it comes to the point where like team build, right? Like if you go with a 0 RB approach and you're in round 6 and Madison's there as your RB1, I think you're okay. If you've got 4 elite receivers and an elite quarterback, I think you're okay with Madison. You go Madison and then you come back and get David Montgomery or something like that. I think you're fine, but it's just interesting. Like he's going RB20, and that's the stuff that like you do, Jody, right? You're a projections guy and a rankings guy, and you're looking at it going, man, RB20 is high. But when you look in like RB20 2 years ago would have been like mid 3rd round or like something to that, like late the 3-4 turn. Now he's going at the 5-6 turn. So you can kind of get away with taking a guy with a little more upside like him there.
Yeah, he snuck up a couple of spots this week just with having to move Jonathan Taylor down and a couple of other guys that I've tweaked rankings here and there. But I just have a little bit of trouble getting him ahead of 25, 23 range and all that. I see the upside and whatnot, but I just find myself a little skeptical. So
yeah, no, I get it. And listen, if everyone's
a couple of questions about the Philadelphia backfield, and I wish I had crystal ball. That's one of the things that I'd like to see how it plays out here, because we've seen like so little activity out of Rashad Penny, DeAndre Swift throughout the preseason, and then all these rumors started last week that Kenneth Gainwell is the RB1 there, and they held him out of a game in the preseason to protect him and all that. I don't know that I buy that. I don't know if they're trolling or if they're just not playing their cards. I remain a DeAndre Swift fan, and with limited touches in 2 of his 3 years in Detroit, he still, from a fantasy football perspective, was RB20 or higher all 3 of his seasons in Detroit. Only 1 season did they give him a ton of carries, and I think he approached RB1 range. And I'm talking fantasy points per game, not totals, because obviously he's got a pretty checkered injury history. But I remain on DeAndre Swift. The caveat there is I will admit that he has trickled down in my rankings a little bit, not because anything has shied me away from him, but more so I've just become a little more enamored with a few other guys that I've maybe moved ahead of him. But I still like Swift, and Rashad Penny has now fallen so late in drafts. I think he's in the RB40 range at this point, and we know the immense upside that he offers. So at that point, you might as well take some shots with him. I mean, there was a rumor there with his, pretty much bargain basement salary that he might not even make the roster because there was no salary repercussions if they had to cut him, but obviously that didn't happen. So Gainwell, that's the really interesting one. I don't necessarily buy this whole that he's going to be the RB1. I mean, I guess it could happen, but Kenneth Gainwell has pretty firmly, and this staff has kind of been the same guy the last couple of seasons, and I kind of envision that retaining. I mean, obviously, in your draft, if he falls late enough, you want to take some shots. I mean, I feel like that with all three of these backs. I feel like I want to take some shots on DeAndre Swift. I feel like all three of them are probably being drafted below where I would like to put them from projection standpoint. So in totality, I feel like, this backfield, I want some pieces of it. And I feel like all the guys are being drafted after where I feel like they could be. So, yeah, I mean, in your draft, the way it falls, I mean, I don't know that I would spend – I never like attacking the same backfield with two draft picks. In particular, if you're in a draft where it's just 16 roster spots, you're kind of limited on that sort of thing. If you're in a deeper draft, you can, take some shots on these guys. I don't know that I would want to target all three of them or necessarily even two of them, but I feel like to me, in this offense, they traded for him for a reason. They can get out, easily after this year. So, I want Swift. I want Swift, first and foremost. I feel like he's got the most upside, and can this creative offense can. And I've been on this all off season. I've written about it multiple times, but I feel like creative play callers and a smart coaching staff, they can find ways to utilize them properly.
Yeah, I think Swift has the most upside, and you could tell yourself a story where a scenario happens where Swift ends up being a top 5 fantasy back because it just all breaks right for him, injury luck and all that type of stuff. Here's the deal. Swift is the best pass catcher on the team in the pass down role. Penny is the best straight running back as far as carrying the ball is concerned. And Gainwell's number 2 in both of those areas. He's the second best runner and he's the second best pass catcher. So I like taking Gainwell because he's the third option. He's the third guy based on ADP. And then if you get an injury to either one of those, Penny's not playing 17 games. Penny's probably not going to play 8 games. So it's like, go get Gainwell and go get Swift. Swift is fine. I like going Swift Gainwell. I know in a 16 spots on the roster, it's tough to do that. But if you're in a lot of these leagues are 20 roster spots, go get Swift and Gainwell. You get an injury to Penny, you are flying. You get an injury to two of them. The other one's an RB1. So it's just a backfield that I want to bet on. It's much cheaper than a lot of these other backfields. So yeah, I think it'll be a nice. I think it's a nice thing to bet on, and you're probably not going to regret it unless all 3 backs stay healthy. They're not all 3 going to stay healthy all year. Question from Jose on Sanders. Seems like his stock has dipped a little bit in Carolina. Could he still have a good year? Miles Sanders. It's interesting because there's been like mum's the word. Miles Sanders there. It's just a thing where he's just kind of been sitting at ADP. He's dropped a little bit. And by the way, if you guys are talking ADP, thinking about ADP right now, there's some drafts going on tonight. We got the mid-stakes Las Vegas Circa Fantasy Championship. 4 spots left in that for tonight at 10:30. 4 spots left in that. It's red, guys. It's red. Jump into that thing. But yeah, I think Miles Sanders is a guy that I don't have a lot of again, but I certainly, again, another guy where he could have the backfield all to himself, though. I do like Chuba Hubbard a little bit. He has had success there, but he could be the pass down back. He could be the goal line back. He could be, he had 1,300 yards. He could be the man there. They paid him to be the man. And so it's just the team isn't very good. But, again, it's a situation where if he's getting all the carries, he's going RB26. Right, he's going to get way more opportunity and touches than James Cook going to RB19. He's going to get. He's in the range with David Montgomery. I like Montgomery, Andre Swift, James Conner, kind of in that range. So I like him in that range. I think he's fine.
I'm not a fan of Miles Sanders overall as a talent. I get that in his rookie year with the Eagles, he was a pretty productive pass catcher, but there's a reason that they stopped basically throwing passes to him. You can look at Pro Football Focus. I know Scott, as much as Scott despises that. He was awful in that area. So I'm skeptical if he's going to come in and be this 3-down back that they've talked him up to be. He missed a significant portion of this offseason with injuries already, which is, obviously always concerned. But that said, because of the potential for him to have, upwards of 300 touches, I still have him around RB20. He's just not a guy that I'm really that excited about. We've seen the rookie left tackle for the Ekwonu has looked awful all preseason. Obviously Bryce Young, it took him until the final preseason game to get his first touchdown pass. I'm lower on Bryce Young this year than I expected to be, because I really liked him when I watched the film. When I wrote up his profile at Full Time Fantasy, I thought, I really wanted him to go here to Houston. I thought, man, this is a kid that I really want. But so you don't want to read too much into what's been a limited preseason, his first rookie campaign here, new staff and whatnot in Carolina. But I just have concerns about the offensive line. When I wrote up the Panthers offensive line, I think they were more middle of the road, but now I feel like if I were to redo that article, they would be 25th or worse, which is, obviously a concern, in particular with his size or lack thereof. It's not the guy that you want to come in and be scrambling around all the time. But like I said, with Miles Sanders, he's just not he's not a sexy pick to me. He's not someone that has the upside that I'm looking for in that area. And again, at RB20 range, like you said earlier, we're talking about, the James Cooks, the Alexander Madison, the Miles Sanders, the, Cam Akers, that kind of range, Isaiah Pacheco, Javonte Williams. I feel like Sanders has less upside or less explosive potential than almost all of those guys. And it's just a weird, it's just one of my feelings. Like, it's my gut instinct that says, I'd rather, at that point, I'd rather just take some swings on these guys who could potentially be, top 15, top 12 guys. I don't see it as Sanders.
Yeah, no, I get it. And again, it's just something we're just not going to know until no one can say for sure. People can point to his passing work not being good. And, other people are like, oh, well, what about his rookie year? So there's different things. So I get it. Listen, we have an exciting question here from Ray. And I love the fact that we're talking week 1 lineups. Jody, let's go. I'm excited. Are you starting Tua or Deshaun Watson week 1? Me personally, I'm starting Tua. An absolute shootout potential. Chargers, right? Week 1 for Miami. Could be an absolute shootout.
Yeah, you gotta love that. Everybody knows that I love the Chargers. Except for Quentin Johnson, I'm higher than ADP on every member of the Chargers passing attack, except Quentin Johnson. So yeah,
I like Tua coming out of the gate. All his weapons are healthy right now. I think Waddle's healthy, getting back there. So, they're going to be throwing the ball more. They lose Jeff Wilson. It's going to be throwing the ball more. So, what do you think, Jody?
I'm curious of what the implied totals and what that for that. I'm going to try to look it up real quick here.
Yeah, and then Deshaun Watson's got Cincinnati at
over under 51 in that game, second highest for the week 1 slate.
Let's go.
Kansas City, Detroit game that's on Thursday, 53.5. That's a big number. 51's a big number. 53.5. That's a really big line. Second, 53.5 is the highest of the week. 51 is second highest. So you have to like that. Who's the other choice?
Deshaun Watson, who's at home against Cincinnati. Again, I just think an AFC North kind of showdown there, it's
got some potential there. But so, off the top of my head, I think the Cincinnati defense is a little underrated. But based on his resume to end last year, I was a little underwhelmed with, Deshaun Watson. And typically, yeah, I'm going to guess, and I'm going to be honest, I haven't done week 1 projections yet. I'm sure Sean and I will get together pretty soon here and have that up. But I'm still on last second draft prep and whatnot here.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. I think
feels like I want some parts of Tua while, as long as he's healthy. And
Yes, that's a huge
while I'm
point.
still a little skeptical of him just because I have concerns, for the young man with those hits and things that he's taken. But I feel like when he is healthy, like if I knew Tua was going to play 17 games, and I think this was another comment that set up, can Tua be a top 5 quarterback or something like that if he were to play 17? I don't know about top 5, but I feel like if I knew Adam right now that he stayed healthy for 17 games, he would be a top 10 quarterback for me.
Yeah, and that's the point. Like he's healthy right now. So if he's healthy now in a shootout game, let's roll him out there. Let's get him out there for sure. I like that.
Let's just stack that game all together because all my Chargers and all the Dolphins together. That's a lot of fun. That's again like let's just do all our DFS lineup. Just
Jameson's got you covered. He's just gonna be chalky as hell, and he's absolutely right.
For sure.
Go in the 0 RB route. I'll answer this one first. Would I be comfortable going Javonte Williams as my first running back in a 0 RB build? Yes, but only if I'm kind of double tapping that position, right? Like if I'm waiting. Let me see where Javonte Williams is going here. He is going in the 6th round.
If you have confidence that you can successfully handcuff him with Samaj Piran, absolutely.
100%. Or
look at this week what Sean wrote. Actually was I ended up doing the write up for him, but it was Sean mainly that was pushing us that way. Sean has been on team Javonte all off season, and he's actually turned my views around on him. And I know we read that Williams is going to kind of be slowly brought along here, which makes sense because it was not just a normal ACL. He actually had damage to his PCL and maybe even the other ligament too. But by all accounts, the recovery's been remarkable and all that. And we know he's got that explosive upside and all that. So, and again, you need differentiation. You got to take some chances here and there. And I feel like a healthy Javonte Williams and a Sean Payton offense with Russell Wilson and when they get back healthy, the receivers there definitely has RB1 upside.
Yeah. Listen, if I'm starting my draft, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, Brandon Ayuk, Jahan Dotson, and then I can come back with Javonte Williams and David Montgomery and then Samaj P. Ryan, I'm fine with that. I just wouldn't go with him as like my solo back and then wait a couple rounds. I would double tap or even triple tap the running back position after that. That would make me feel more comfortable. All right, Jody, we got a couple more minutes here. I got a big draft at 10 o'clock, so I got to get ready for that. So let's go over like one or two of our guys this year, and I can start. And I'm going to steal one of our guys, as in me and you. I remember sitting down with you, oh God, months and months and months ago, talking about like your initial rankings and projections and going over stuff. And like a guy that we both loved immediately was J.K. Dobbins. And apparently no one's been listening to us for the last, which is fine. Everyone in the chat listen to us. Go get J.K. Dobbins. But everyone else who doesn't want to listen, fine. He's still at RB21 in the middle of the 6th round. I mean, it's been nothing but beautiful news coming out of Baltimore. He's the man there. They're going to throw it to him more, spread it out, high flying offense. Dobbins is a stud. Great offensive line, new coordinator. I mean, just everything screams that he's going to have an incredible season. I'm all over Dobbins. I'm overweight on Dobbins, and I love it.
Yeah, he's the guy. I was actually higher on him earlier this offseason than I am now. It's simply because he sat out basically the entire preseason, and that's always a red flag for me. It's part of the reason why I'm much lower than the consensus on Josh Jacobs. But, again, for me, I don't expect much out of the Ravens. I think their head coach gets fired and is probably the leading candidate to be the first coach dismissed this year. But it comes down to usage with Josh Jacobs. I like Dobbins just fine. But I feel like I just need to see how many passes they're going to be willing to throw to running backs and all that. So, I mean, yes, obviously we've talked all off season about him. I still have plenty of him rostered. I'm not going to say that I'm not on him anymore. There's other running backs in that range that I've now written. Like I published today a sleeper running back article, and Isaiah Pacheco has kind of become like my go-to guy there in that same range that you're targeting Dobbins. I feel like with Pacheco, we started to see after week 11 last year, he became the guy there. I wrote up the totals there in my article, but he basically was an RB2 or better every week, all throughout the playoff run. And I feel like the Chiefs' explosive offense, they've ran for 34 touchdowns over the last 2 years. I think right now Pacheco is by far the leading contender to take the majority of those short yardage reps there. The Jarrett McKinnon role that we saw last year, I don't think there's any way he catches 9 touchdowns again. So Pacheco started to show some receiving chops a little bit there towards the end of the season there. So that's a guy that I'm really becoming more and more enamored with. And, Cam Akers was the guy that I kind of liked a little bit too, but I'm kind of off him now. This whole thing this week, it's been a bad week for the Rams. We just see Matt Stafford's having difficulty getting along with these young kids it's relating to them, not necessarily getting along with them. And today, Cooper Kupp suffered a setback. That's concerning for me because in my projections, I don't want nothing to do with the Rams, auxiliary receivers at that point. It's all Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee, and then I want nothing to do with Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
Anybody else on the Rams, I just don't want anything to do with.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Puka Nakua, the rookie, he's got some upside, but he's so late in drafts that at that point it's nothing but upside.
Right, exactly. And you could probably find guys with higher upside that late in the draft. So yeah, it's interesting. So I got 2 more real quick ones. I'm not going to talk a lot about. Just want to throw these out there. My guys, I really love Jahmyr Gibbs. We've been talking about him all offseason. Gibbs, I love elite O-line. Really good offense, a team that's going to score a ton of points. I really love him there. And then
he's my RB7 or RB8, somewhere in that range.
Yep. And then Garrett Wilson, another guy that we talked about on that same night about hey guys, how high do we want to put Garrett Wilson into? Right now he's being drafted as wide receiver 9. I was just doing some drafts over that little last weekend, and I couldn't get him at the 1-2 turn. I had to take him, at pick 9 and stuff because I think.
Oh, Adam, you remember back in May when we could start off Garrett Wilson and Amon-Ra St. Brown in our draft? Those were the glory days. So those 2 are higher guys. I can't get these guys in every draft, obviously, but these are guys I'm absolutely targeting Garrett Wilson. Hey, remember when we used to be able to get Garrett Wilson and Jahmyr Gibbs? Now you can't get them because Wilson's moved up, Gibbs has moved. It's difficult. So those are 2 of the higher guys. And imagine that Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra start, and you were able to get Gibbs as in the 4th round. But later on, you're taking Goff as the quarterback. The Lions stack.
Those are the days, Jody. We're almost at the season, man. I am so excited. I'm going to be in Vegas next week, hanging out with Scott, hanging out with Ian, hanging out with all the boys. Next week draft. I mean, hopefully we'll get you out there next year. They got you working too much over here at full-time fantasy. Come on.
It was 11 straight hours yesterday. I looked up and I realized, because it was, it was Tuesday. I don't even know what day it is anymore. It was all the roster cuts were coming in, and I felt like I was that meme with the cat doing that stuff,
pounding the keyboard. But hey, you're doing a great job. I love it. You love it. Hey, 3 spots left for the 10:30 Las Vegas Circa Fantasy Championship. Got plenty of time to fill that in, get up there and draft. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys next week in Vegas. I know I'll see all the other guys we were watching the games and stuff. So, and we won't be podcasting next week because I will be in Vegas Wednesday night doing drafts, hanging out with the guys. So, meet us the following Wednesday where we'll recap week 1. I can't wait to do that, and we'll go over some waiver wire guys. So we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. And until next time, have a good one.